to each one of you. On behalf of Bangalore Chamber of Industry and Commerce, we welcome you all for this exclusive session on sharing of industrial safety best practices, organized coinciding with the National Safety Month of March. This is a joint session of BCIC and Bidadi Industries Association. The Chamber expresses its sincere thanks to Mr. Murli, who have representing Bidadi Industries Association and who was instrumental in structuring all the series of session. Next slide, please, Purushottam. The Chamber expresses its sincere thanks to Mr. Gopalakrishna, Senior Manager, EHS at Volvo CE India, and Mr. Venkatakuppuswamy, who is the Director, Key Accounts, LRQA, for accepting our invitation to address at this session. The Chamber also acknowledges its sincere thanks to our annual sponsors, Messrs. Bueller, Continental, Fundermax, IMPL, MTR, SD, MIMD, Sona Group of Companies, TVS Motor, Vishwas Group, and Wipro for their support in the activities of the Chamber. Now I would request Mr. Murli to set the theme. Over to you, Mr. Murli. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Rupa. We are celebrating the National Safety Month in March. And towards that, we have identified 5 themes for this purpose. The first theme was road safety. The second one was fire safety. Third was electrical safety. Fourth was industrial safety. And the fifth one was construction safety. And we had the privilege of having some really senior government officials addressing the chamber. We had Mr. Anuchet, IPS, who is a joint commissioner for Bangalore City Traffic Police. Mr. Alok Mohan, IPS, who's the Director General of his Karnataka Fire Services and Emergency Response Department. We also had the privilege of having Mr. K.M. Manjunath, who is a consulting engineer and architect of Karnataka Housing Board. And yesterday, Mr. K. Srinivas, Director Factories Department and Factories and Boilers Department, visited the chamber and addressed the members. We had good participation in all the sessions. Totally, we had about 5 to 6 sessions. We had also good presentations from all the member companies, starting from Volvo Group, Bosch Group. Then we have from Antis Technologies and from Toyota Group. So today we have the privilege of having Mr. Gopalakrishna and Mr. Venkatakuppuswamy. And Venkatakuppuswamy, as you all know, he has been a great supporter for our chamber. And he is a veteran in audit. He's from Lloyd Solicitors, is a director now. So we will hear from him as to what are the areas that we need to focus when it comes to safety, especially industrial safety, and electrical safety, and road safety. So this is what it is. And before I leave the floor to Mr. Gopalakrishna, let me just briefly introduce him. He is presently working as Senior Manager EHS in Volvo CE India Private Limited. And he's a mechanical engineer and postgraduate diploma in industrial management, has over 32 years of experience and about 7 years in quality assurance, manufacturing engineering, and special projects of about 17 years, EHS about 8 years. He is a lead auditor in 3 management systems, ISO 9001-2015, ISO 14001-2015, and OSAS 18001-2007. So with this, I leave the floor to Mr. Gopalakrishna. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you to BCIC organization. So this is an opportunity given, a good opportunity given to me to highlight few best practices that we are been following in our Volvo construction equipment. Okay, today I'm going to highlight some of the activities that what we are been experiencing in our industry, like high risk activities and prevention. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, what is high risk prevention program? So activities which are risk potential are considered as high risk activities. So in that working at height, falling objects, hot work, confined space work, working alone, working on roofs, stacks or chimneys, vehicle and pedestrian management inside the premises, like no traffic safety, when high voltage installation maintenance, all those things are considered as a high potential, high risk potential activities. Okay, why this high potential activities has to be focused? Okay, in Volvo, in our health and safety culture vision 2030, we aim to reach interdependent level of safety culture. So as all of you know, Bradley Kerr says reactive, dependent, independent and interdependent phases. Okay, so we wanted to be in interdependent level of safety culture, and again inviting and again focusing as well as to promote the good safety cultures among the people. Okay, so we have a pardon, high risk prevention maturity self high risk prevention maturity. There is a self assessment we have been doing at Volvo Group, and we have directives to support all the high risk activities where there is a chances of getting into the injury in a bigger way. So that is the thing. That is the reason Volvo Group has released the directives on high risk activities. Next slide, please. Next slides. Okay, what are the high risk activities at Volvo CE? Working at height, traffic safety, lockout, tagout procedures, personal padlock, lone working, lifting and rigging, working in confined spaces, and working under the raised equipment. So these are all the activities that we do in the factory as well as outside the factory, in our dealers area and all. No? So all these activities are been happening, and again we have supporting documents and procedures has been mentioned so that safely the people can work. How to prevent and control the risk prevention program? Okay, how to control all the risks? So Volvo Group has released the directives for these high risk activities to prevent and control the risks. Next slide, please. Okay, so I'm going to talk today on working at height directives, and that it has been released. It is released in the Volvo, and again, especially the directives has to be abided by all the manufacturing sites. Okay, it is not just a guideline. So these directives has to be 100% ensured. And again, if and again, it refers to the total whole group. Okay, in the whole group, we have to abide. One more thing here, a very interesting subject is in the directive itself. It has been mentioned in any of the country where Volvo is working, if the standards are very stringent than this directive, then the stringent directives, stringent follow this one guidelines has to be followed by the people. So if no directives or no rules are there to support that particular activities, minimum the manufacturing site has to follow this directive. So this is applies to all the directives. So that we have to follow minimum Volvo standards or maybe the local regulation requirement. If the local local regulatory requirements are very stringent, we must follow the local requirement. Next please, next page. Okay, to have the assessment. Okay, it is a self-assessment that we have to do in our factory. So considering all the requirement, and again there are plenty of sections and clauses are being there, and again I'm going to show each clause what is the importance, and again in the final slide I'm going to show where we are. Okay, next slide please. Okay, so here what the procedure. Okay, the procedure is while we are working, ensure the implementation of fixed ladder along with the railing. Okay, railing has to be there, and again it has to be fixed or anchored to the top surface of the platform. Next slide, please. Here you can see what is the task assessment. In that, systematic approach, systematic risk assessment, and record and retaining what we have to do. Okay, in this, do the risk assessment of working at height workplace. Involve the contractors also, because especially working at height, we focus more on the contract employees. Whereas our employees, we have been provided the working platform so that they can easily work. And again, they will have some kind of scissor lift mechanisms, or maybe they can access through any of the mechanisms, so that working at height doesn't refer more on our regular employees. So all these working at height uh, guidelines is on the contract employees. Okay, so we need to do the risk assessment along with the contractors to use suitable equipments wherever the accessing tools are needed. So we have to use the suitable equipment. Ensure that the person is medically fit. Okay, the person has to be medically fit to climb on the stairs, or maybe climb on the maybe one level to another level also. And again, we need to have his documentation and retain all the documentation as the reference. Okay, next slide, please. Next slide. Okay, here equipment, what type of equipment we can use? So we can use the step ladders, or maybe a tackles anchoring the component, and again scaffolding frames we have to maintain. And again, the person need to wear the safety harness. And again, all these equipments has to be maintained in a proper way. Keep the sufficient inventory of ladders, scaffolding, safety harness, lifting devices. Ensure it is validated by competent or authorized person. So we need to have the certification of that. And again, periodically, we need to ensure its fitness. Ensure the use of authorized person to operate the mobile elevated work platform. MEWP, mobile elevated work platform. So this is one of the devices. It creates a platform for the person to work for more time of his working at height condition. And we need to retain all the certifications. And again, even the lifting tools, all the devices need to have the certification and calibration certificates. Next slide, please. Then training is very much needed. Okay, so without the training, people should not be working in the site, especially in the working at height. Okay, so the contract person has to educate him, and again, he has to ensure that the skilled person is deployed to work on in work at a height condition. So train the person to wear the safety harness also. So safety harness wearing also is one of the major requirement. Otherwise, no unnecessary damage to his body is going to happen. So that education has to be given by the contractor. And again, our safety person is going to ensure he's doing the right thing. Educate him to anchor the lanyard of the anchor. Educate him to anchor the lanyard to the anchor without fail. Okay, so once he put downing his safety harness, so he should search for the anchor, so that anchor or the lifeline or the solid a sturdy structure, so that without anchoring he should not start work. Ensure to use authorized person to operate the mobile elevated work platform. So the machines has to be driven by a authorized person, so to avoid all the mishaps, because driving that particular hydraulic vehicle without the training, no, it is a big problem. Okay, next slide, please. Next slide. Hello.
It is moved, sir.
For me, it is not moved. Yeah, now it is. Now, how many slides have we? Can you go back? Back. Slide number 10 is.
This is the 10th
Can-
slide.
Yeah, no, can you go back? 9th slide is what I done already.
Yes, yes, sir. 9th
Yeah,
slide is on
thank you.
display.
Yeah, done. Okay, maybe go to the 10th slide. Sorry. Okay, harness. So harness has to be verified by the competent person. Okay, and again to anchor the safety harness, the person need to identify the anchor points. Ensure the fall distance shall be as short as possible. Okay, because the person should not fall for a bigger distance because it should be a supporting device for him. Okay, ensure the scaffolding installation is done correctly and get approval from authorized person. Okay, regarding the scaffolding, it should be assembled by a skilled person, and again competent person has to approve it. In case of movable scaffolding, ensure the brakes need to have a effective braking system. Okay, so after doing all these checks, the document has to be retained. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so this refers to the mobile mobile elevated work platform. Okay, MEWP. Ensure that the MEWP is appropriate to the work to be carried out. So regarding the capacity, height, span, all those things. When this machine is in use, ensure that the keys are when the machine is not in use, ensure that the keys are not retained in the machine. Okay, this is one of the requirement. The person has to take out the key and again he has to keep or he has to hand it over to the respective responsible person. This machine to be part and it should be in a transportable premises because it should be easy to move it whenever it is required, because it should not be put somewhere it is impossible to take it. And again sometimes people take a shortcut not using this machine, so that okay it is going to give a risky thing and again it takes a long time and all. No, so they should not take any shortcut to bring this machine and use it. Okay, it should be accessible to the operator. Ensure main power is switched off when the machine is parked. Operator to be authorized to operate. Okay, operator should be a trained person. In case of emergency, ensure the MEWP reach the ground without any issue to relieve the operator from the height. Okay, if it fails, no, in such a case, there should be a mechanism to bring him to the ground level. Okay, person inside the MEWP need to wear helmets and safety harness, and again he has to anchor to the basket, whatever the guarded basket. So in that he has to secure the harness. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, sorry. Okay, ladders. So we use ladders also to work at height. We must know that the ladders are the accessing facility than working platform. Okay, ladders are there just to access from one level to another level. Okay, so ladders doesn't take any of the load, extra load, or the people working maybe a load and all. But in case if we plan to work using the ladder, it must be for a very short period and a simple work. So by standing on the ladder, I should not be giving any hammer hitting or maybe a torquing, maybe giving big torque so that the ladder itself may fall. So all those things we need to know. Okay, if it is a accessible device than the working platform. Ensure the stable supporting there on the ground directly, and do not place this on the pallets. Okay, actually no, in maybe a short of height, usually people give some supporting, maybe the packings and all. So that is not acceptable while working on the ladder. So as we increase the number of joints or maybe a number of supporting bearing surfaces, there is a chances of sliding between the layer, and again the ladder may fall and even the person may get into the big injury. and no side movement to the person while working in the ladder. Okay, as I mentioned, no torquing or maybe hitting, all those things no has to be hammering, all those things has to be avoided. Movable and the leaning ladders to be secured on the at the top. Actually, usually the movable thing, though they are temporarily fixed onto the stair, maybe a platform. So platform need to have some kind of mechanism so that the ladder should not slide parallelly or maybe across the wall or something like that. Okay, we need to have a hooks or maybe a J bolt or maybe J structure, J pipe has to be there so that it is fixed into a right portion. Okay, next slide, please. Next slide. Yeah. Roofs. Okay, so accessing on the roof is also one of the major dangerous activity. Okay, so while accessing through the ladder, vertical ladder, okay, important thing is vertical ladder has to be locked or it should be protected from the people entry, because the people should not misuse this vertical ladder which is leading to the roof. And be careful on the fragile roofs. Ensure the employee is anchored along with the safety harness. Okay, unless he is anchored on the lifeline, he should not be working on the fragile roof. Usually, there are chances of fragile roof may, because of the hot condition, it might lost its total property. It may be brittle to get very quickly within with a small load also. Mark the access area as only to the authorized personnel. Okay, that one it is very much needed that only authorized person has to be given access to go to the roof. All the roofs to be maintained and reviewed for the fitness. Usually roofs, usually the people neglect it. Okay, usually because of the water doesn't go freely, and again some kind of water movement provision won't be there. No, in such cases, water stagnation can create corrosion on the roof, and again it is easy to break, and it loses its mechanical property, and again there is chances it may fall. And again this has to be maintained periodically, and again any corrections needed, then and there we need to do the corrections. Any competent skilled employees to be allowed on the, okay, only the competent and skilled employees to be allowed to work on the roof. He should be a skilled person, because the personal fitness also is very important. Again he should have a practice. Unless he is certified for the particular work, no, he should not be allowed to work. And again usually he has to take the help of his supervisor or maybe co-workers till he is conversant with working in height. Person working on the roof need to have communication devices to interact with his supervisor. Okay, this is one of the requirement. Nowadays mobile phones can be used. Lone working is allowed only for the inspection work along with the supervisors only. So lone working, so we too have lone working directive. So in that lone working is discouraged, especially when the person goes to the top. So we'll not be having any visibility on him. So it is better to have a supervisor or one more person is accompanying him, so that if something health condition or bad health condition happens to him, he should be, the people should be known. Okay, it is always preferred to have end rails at the roof edge. Okay, so usually the roof will have a gradient, maybe 10-degree gradient they will have. And again, there is a chances if a person working on the roof, if he slips, there is a chances he can roll and come down. So it is always preferred to have a roof edges. If not possible, operator must use the safety harness with suitable anchorage, and again suitable length. Lanyard also should be ensured, so that the person should not get into the problem of hitting to the edge itself. Okay, this is one more requirement. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, platforms. Okay, usually any accessing ladder need to have a gate or a locking railing, so that the person once he climbs up, he should be in a cage so that while tightening or maybe working, no, you should not forget the opening provided on the ladder access area. So usually this type of thing happens in most of the area. Even you can see in another picture also, the gate has to be there, or a movable gate, or with a latch under lockable conditions, it should be there, so that people should not have a free fall. Okay, and again observations has to be ensured by the safety people, or maybe the um, area manager or the project executor, to ensure the lotto is applied wherever it is needed, and again ensure the barricade of MEWP operating place. Actually, forklift may hit this particular movable elevated working platform machine. So for that, it should be known, and again it should be barricaded with safety cones, so that forklift should be aware, he should not go very close to that. So that those types of provisions has to be there, so that the this particular MEWP should not be get uh, damaged, or maybe should not be get hit by the forklift. Next slide, please. Next slide. Okay. Yeah, this is working at height directives. Okay, as per that one, no. So we do the direct this one self-assessment. So in that we have scored around 86%. Still, we do have some kind of gaps, and again there is a room for improvement also, because we are not keeping the record of the risk assessment when we are planning some activity with the contractor. Okay, that one we are going to practice it. And again, all the equipments used, working at height, inspected, maintained annually, and authorized person. See, this authorized person, we have not taken the support. We ourselves ensure its correctness, like no ladders, and again we have a scissor lift and all. So I think we have to have a authorization from the competent person externally. And again, training and authorization, does the affected employee receive working at height directive awareness training before actual work deployment? We give the instruction to the person what is the risk involved in that particular area, but regular training with respect to in line with the directive we are not giving. And again, once in 2 years education also, no, we are not doing. And we have the names. Okay, name of the people, because in most of the time working at height activity is happening by the contract people. Those people list, and again training them, and again educating 100% on this directive. So we are not doing it 100%. And again, a process of a ladder, we have a inspection of the ladder processes. That one still we have to have some kind of control over that. Okay, this is our assessment value. Okay, it seems okay. We are with green condition. We will definitely improve. Maybe whatever the deviations we are having a gap. No, those things we are going to do. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, in recent time, maybe around 3-4 years before. So once we have gone with this directive, so we have a few installation we did to ensure safe working of the people in our factory. Got to the fragile roof. Polycarbonate sheets have been protected by the mesh structure, so that a person who is working over the roof, he should not put the leg on that. Okay, it should not cut. Maybe brittle failure should not happen down to the polycarbonate sheet. And again, edge railing we have put in a few area. Sorry, few area where monthly testing is happening at our stack monitoring. So since oftenly the person goes to take the sample, so we have provided the railing, so that safely the person can go and work and take the samples. Okay, just the next slide, please. Okay, and again lifeline anchoring. we have implemented in some of the area where though it is not being used, maybe not being accessed frequently. So we have provided on all the roof so that in case of any corrections or maybe rainwater leakage and all, no, so we have provided some anchorage with a good bracket system so that person should safely go and walk. And even in our assembly shop, old shop, this is around 20-30 years before shop. Okay, for that also we have provided the protection or maybe the roof guard for the polycarbonate sheet, so as to ensure safe access by the employee or contract employee. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, this is my presentation. If any questions, I can clarify.
Thank you, Mr. Gopalakrishna.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Any questions, members? Okay, if there are no questions, let us move to the next session. And let me also thank Mr. Gopalakrishna for his presentation on height work and things related to that. So thank you, Mr. Gopalakrishna. And
Thank
we have
you,
our next
Murali.
speaker. Yeah, we have the next speaker, Mr. Venkatakuppuswamy. Mr. Venkatakuppuswamy is a director in Lloyd's Registers, has over 30 years of experience, and is a great supporter for BCIC. So he's been an auditor certifying for quality, environment, and safety. So therefore, let us hear from him some of the finer aspects of safety. Over to you, Venkat.
Thank you, Murali. And am I audible to you all?
Yeah,
I'm audible.
Yes, audible.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, audible.
In fact, it has been my pleasure to address through BCIC platform because the topic is so it's a passionate for me, like to address. And though whatever the time limits were given to me, I thought like let me jump in and then address the team. The topics which we are going to discuss for a while now is not going to be quite new. You have been heard about it quite every now and then. And the instance which I'm going to speak, the solutions which I'm going to suggest for all these hazards is not that going to be different at all. Like you may, at the end of the day, you may feel that these are known to us and why it's not been practiced. That's what you may feel at the end of the session. Let me just quickly go through. I think my slides are visible.
Visible.
Yeah, okay. I do not know why it's not moving. Okay, just give me, yeah, correct. Now it's moving. So we'll first talk about the road safety. So the topic given to me was, there are quite a few topics like, construction safety, electrical safety, fire safety, road safety. These are the topics. But to do a justification to an extent, because every topic is a big ocean of its own. Like even if you take an hour or 1.5 hours in each topic, it will take a lot of time. Even then the justification would not have been done. So even in fire safety, I've taken only the hotel fire safety I've taken. The road safety, I'm going to talk about a limited extent to which you all will be familiar and you'll get familiarized further also. You know what a road safety is. Road safety is nothing but how safe the individual uses a particular road or the road belonging to some region where it is prone to much of accidents and incidents take place. So how safe you are. And every day after the work, we always have some slogans that you are accountable back home. So go back home safe. Someone is waiting at home. This is what the slogans which we had seen in our daily routine, like when you walk inside the factory and when you walk out also. So it is a much important topic which we all know, and we have to follow where we are lacking and how we are lacking and what are the things that we need to take care. The main danger to road users is the likelihood of the traffic collision. That's what it is. A simple statistics, if I say 1.2 million people are killed in road accidents worldwide every year. And if you just look into it, this is something which is really damaging. 3 to 4% of the gross national product is lost in road accidents. And one child is getting killed in road accidents every 3 minutes in the world. And if you just look into it, for the males aged between 15 and 44, the road traffic injuries ran second next to the illness which you'll be aware of, HIV and AIDS, like as leading cause of the premature death and ill health worldwide. This is what is the statistical representation which you should be knowing. The common cause for the road accidents are, for that sake, is the overspeeding, drunk driving, using the mobile phones while driving, we have seen day in and day out, and irresponsible driving also, and ignoring the safety precautions. Of course, we always see the helmets and the seat belts are not worn. It's very important that we wear the seat belts when we are sitting on the rear seat also in a car, but it seldom happens. The signages which we often ignore, that if it's do not enter means we try to get in. If there is no U-turn available, we just try to barge in also. And these are some of the things which we normally ignore. If a pedestrian cross is ignored at all. There is used to be a saying, how developed the country is for that matter, please note it. It is not the technology what they possess, gentlemen. It is the nature of the people, the educated level of the people, how the people respect the others. And that is what is one of the indicators of a developed country. For that sake, like we never care for the pedestrians when we drive. We try to rush through. We brush them across also, for that matter. Those are the things which need to be taken care. Like a country which gives a lot of respect to the pedestrians while driving is one of the indicator to say, yes, this nation has got matured, and knowledgeable people, or people who respect the other human life also, for that sake. That is all the indicator that which we need to learn. And if I'm going to impress upon at least one or two participants here in this session, of course the participation is not very high, but yet if I could influence in this way, like it's good enough also, for that matter. So steps to prevent road accidents. Okay, road accidents are known, and the steps to prevent road accidents is mostly known. Like this, we talk about the speed limits. Like most of the bring down the accidents, strict enforcement of the speed limits. Now the last 3-4 years we could see the roads are becoming so high, so very nicely laid, and that is also an indicator. For someone was telling me when I was in a Toyota about last week also, they were mentioning me that our capacity of building the cars has increased, and the demand as the cars has increased also, because the roads now have become wonderful. Like first it was about a decade back, or a decade and a half decade before, we had the golden quadrilateral which connects the roads in the northern part of it, and how it enables, or it facilitates the movement of the goods. That's what it was. It was well thought that point in time. And slowly now we could see all the roads are well laid, for that matter, and the sale of cars has increased even for that sake, and the people love to drive at a higher speed. That's what it is. And without realizing that, yes, the roads are good, but will certain other parameters, like your inflated tires, will it be suitable for that high limits of a speed? Many people never think about. 90% of the accidents can be avoided by the strict enforcement of the speed limits, and the existing speed limits should be brought down further. Quite a few people never like it. And some of the points I'm going to tell in the few of the other slides, many people will say, no, this is not acceptable, because that is what is the vehicle designed for, and that is the reason I've chosen that vehicle, and hence the speed limits should not be brought down. We will see those recommendations what been made in this following slides. Heavy penalty should be imposed on all those who cross the speed limits. It is there. I'm not saying it is not there, but it is not highly practiced consistently across. So if this strictly implemented, probably no one can dare go at higher speed. You would have seen, every one of us would have experienced also, when there is a speed limit indicator is there, we try to lower the speed to see that you're not getting caught. But that should become a habit. How it can become a habit? That if it's only been practiced, that's how it is. Heavy penalty should be imposed if they are there, and a tamper-proof speed controllers should be made mandatory for the heavy vehicles. It is given, but often it is tampered also, for that matter, by the people who are using it. They know how to tamper it. So the new heavy vehicles, when being manufactured, they should have a tamper-proof control system also. They should have. 1 minute. So steps to prevent the road accidents further is to ensure the helmet users are having a chin strap. Chin strap is not often worn even when you walk across inside the factory. Also, you can see they will wear the helmet and not the chin strap. If the chin strap is not worn, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, it is as good as to not have the helmet at all for that sake. So that you should use. How that culture can be brought in? The culture can be brought in if an onlooker looks at it inside the factory. If it is, of course, in the public, it is very dangerous to say, or it is not been well taken by the people also if you comment on them. But inside the factory, a person looks at another person not wearing the chin strap, asking him, you are doing something wrong. It is a human behavior, part of it, that need to be taken care of. So ensure that only good quality helmets are available in the market. You would have seen the roadside also. They take out some helmets and put, because the traffic police is there way ahead. So you have to put something and then rush through also. And the traffic police never insist on whether it's a quality helmet or not, for his ignorance also, for that matter. He never knows what type of helmet it is. If something is worn on the top of the head which looks like a helmet, he allows them also, for that matter. So that awareness also need to be brought in, and strict enforcement of the existing traffic rules also need to be. Of course, no doubt things are becoming stringent, but how it has been practiced is a question. Children below a certain age should not be allowed or permitted to do cycling in a heavy traffic area. That need to be brought in also. And safety awareness should begin from the childhood. So, for that matter, there is a saying like, if something not getting as a practice in the age of 5 to 10 or whatever it is, and you cannot turn a person when he is in 50s. Like, it has to come, it has to be nurtured. That's what the word nurtured is used. If it is not nurtured in the young age, you cannot suddenly expect an adult, a grown-up adult, to follow the safety practices. If it is to be practiced, it is to be practiced, and it should be taught to him, and it should be governed also at the early age of his life. Video on the computer games and the simulator racing should be banned by the government. Again, many people never like it. That's one of the, you can see even the elders using it in the aircraft and other thing also. When they are sitting in the aircraft, they use such app only for that matter. Of course, the parents should discourage such activities, because it influences or it stimulates them also when they are driving, like the same thing they try to practice in the road also, which is not, and it should not be encouraged. Racing over high speed, highly risky riding, driving by heroes in the films, that should be, of course, that should be banned. I should not say. But a good thing which has now been happening the last 10 years or so, if someone's if he smokes or if he's taking liquor, there'll be a fine statement will be that it is injurious to health not to be. Similarly, if someone is driving very fast, the hero drives very fast in the cinema or in any of the serials, what is shown in the TV, there can be a line stating that, or it can be censored also for that matter, so that can also become as a culture that people can change. Law should be modified in such a way the person who made the accident should bear 8 to 10% of the insurance. If that has been put on heavily, the people will be looking at the accidents are unaffordable. Of course, there's no question of affordable in the case of an accident, but certainly he'll be thinking of much higher. I had seen the other day a person was saying about drunken driving. Venkat, if I'm just caught, for that matter, 10,000 rupees will be the fine. So I don't want to do that. 10,000 is a fine being imposed when you are found drunk and driven, because that is unaffordable for him. Like, why should I have to pay 10,000? So that makes him to see that he is not getting drunk in the late night parties and then drive also. So it should be made unaffordable for the people, so it becomes a practice. So this terms which I talked about as far as the road safety is concerned is not quite new to you, but yet we often get, what do you call it? At the sight of it, we lose it. That's what it is. Now let us talk about the electrical safety for a while. Electrical safety, what are the electrical safety hazards? Like if you just look into it, in this next few slides, I'll be talking about the major electrical hazards, the types of electrical hazards, and the protection methods, what we can use, and what are the employer requirements, because that's most important. Employers need to be committed. And the simple law of physics states the water flows from a higher potential to a lower potential. So employer should be committed to it. Electrical hazards, if you just look, be safe. You can take every letter as an acronym of that. B stands for burns, burn as a hazard, burn injury. Electrocution is another hazard. Shock, arc flash, fires, and explosion. These are the possible hazards of an electrical hazard which you can think about. So then the picture shows you the burn, the fire, the electrocution, everything it talks about. And then if you just look into this electrical hazards, there are two cases which you had seen, which you had experienced also. A worker gets electrocuted. I have seen in my own eyes when I was auditing an organization, a fellow, especially in an occupational health and safety center, when I went, a fellow was lying flat over there. Like why? Because he was taking a ladder, an aluminum ladder, without even realizing there is a overhead high tension power lines are going. And see, look at it. I want to tell a very important thing. A fellow who gets electrocuted for that sake, depending on, we'll see it another slide, depending on the amount of the current which flows through him for that sake, he will be appearing normal for 1 or 2 hours. He will be talking sense to you. He'll be making all relevant response to stimulus will be there. But slowly the fibrillation happens and he dies after getting back home. The people never realize that this fellow got electrocuted during the work, and he would have traveled back home and he would have died also for that matter. That is what is a big hazard as far as electric point is concerned. We never know how it happens. The people think that it is for some other reason he has died, but he would have. So the electrical hazard prevention is, if I heard someone during the BCIC seminar only, I heard a person talking about it. It may be a repeat for the audience who are sitting back here again to hear the same, but nevertheless, it cannot go without quoting when you talk about electrical hazard. So, 1000 milliamperes corresponds to 1 amp. So you just look into it below 1 milliamperes, it is perceptible, generally not perceptible. It is 1 milliamps causes a faint tingle, 5 milliamps, slight shock he feels, and involuntary reactions he will be leading to other injuries you can find. 6 to 25 milliamps. I'm always talking about milliamps, gentlemen. I'm not talking about amps. So painful shock, loss of muscular controls will result. And 9 to 30 milliamps, the freezing current or let go, like in the sense the individual cannot go, but can be thrown away from the circuit. He'll feel the repulse. He can be pushed away also. That is what is the one. And if you look at, close to 50 to 150 milliamps, the respiratory arrest happens. 50 to 150 milliamps, and a severe muscular contraction happens, and death is also lethal. It can also be lethal. So you have to know about these milliamps, what it can happen. Defective equipment, I needless have to say. The defective equipment, when you walk across, when people are using welding, for that matter, operations, you can see how they are using. You can even see some of these are called unsafe act and unsafe conditions which are prevailing there. You should always look at the unsafe act and the unsafe conditions when you walk across the factory. It is not that the person who is working there will always think that he is very highly competent. The other day when I was working inside a shop floor, I'm talking very long time back, a person was attending on a welding equipment transformer. I could not hold myself. I just asked him, like, how you are doing it? You're not isolated the power, but you are doing a job. That fellow looked into my eyes, thinking that I'm a stupid fellow. He looked into my eyes and then said, I'm a licensed electrician, sir. I'm an authorized licensed electrician. I just had to tell him very smilingly at him and then said, the power never knows you are licensed or not. It will pass through a least resistant source, and you are the least resistant if it is going to be, and it passes through, and it never looks at whether you possess a license or not. The people in this part of the world, or any part of the world for that matter, the human behavior plays a role, and he thinks that he has got a license and he can do, and he is very cautious. One of the major problem with a human is that he is always cautious. The other fellow is not cautious. That's what it is. And that leads to accidents, you may say that. So that's what it is. And the prevention of electrical hazard can also be through the 1 minute. I'll just make it for you to visible, to make it much more visibility for you. The care, connection, and capacity are the ones. If you just look into the capacity of the wires, the lesser its gauge, the more the power it can pass through. The people never look into it. Like the people just put something across and then they pass, and then you find the wires are very hot also for that matter, because they have not chosen the right gauge. Lower the gauge, higher the current can be passed through. And that is what is the sizing of the wires it is. As the sizing of the wire depends on the gauge and the length of the card. That need to be taken into account. You can always see the power strips also a source for any incidents or accidents can be taken place, because the strips are the ones where the multiple plugging does happen, and that overloading of that can cause many of the hazards also, maybe a overload protection. And in this case only, I'll be talking it in another slide, how the assured equipment grounding conductor program can help you to prevent such power strips. In this power strips, how it can help you out to prevent from such incidents also. Okay, so I'll just move on to another slide, because I'll be taking another 10 minutes time, Murali, because so electrical protection methods are there. If it's a kilowatt, if it's a kilovolt is up to 50 kilowatt source is there, you stand away 10 meters away from that. That's what is 10 feet away from that. That is very acceptable. And if it is 500 to 750 kilovoltage source, it is there, stand 25 feet away. And if it is 750 to 1000 kilovolt is there, stand 45 feet away. So this is something which normally not practiced in our culture. You always see, if you just walk across, and we always blame BESCOM for that matter. The other day, when an incident had happened also near the transformer, you park a car and the car gets burnt, and we blame the BESCOM. Of course, the BESCOM has to be blamed. I'm not saying no to it. It's insulation and other things. But how far you should be from a high kilowatt source is not very clearly defined, and it has not been strictly followed also leads to it. Another way of electrical protection method is using a ground fault circuit interrupters, so that it limits the duration of electric shock. It detects the ground fault also, and it is designed to protect the people from electrical shock, which is often not practice that's needed to be seen. This GFCI has got three types, like receptacle, temporary, which is portable, and a circuit breaker is also there. And the portable tools, like you would have seen the many people carry a handheld hammers. They carry the handheld grinding wheels. They carry, for that matter. They are not tested. They are not tested for its grounding. They are not often tested. You can see that the people, the contract laborers, fetch that equipment, and even the plugs will not be there. They will be removing the insulation like this, and then they will put it onto the source also. How many times, how many occasions you would have seen, I never know. Of course, it is now such instances have reduced, because many of the organizations are now following the safety practices they follow. And then once the contractors bring in that tool, they even test for its earthing and other requirements. They do test, but still there are organizations which I never want to mention. I don't want to discriminate between the multinationals and other organizations. Of course, there are Indian organizations to a very good extent. They are following a high safety culture, no doubt about it. But still, you find some people, because of the human behavior, it is often overlooked. That need to be studied. So never carry a tool by a cart. Many people pull the tool by a cart, like they will even put it like this on the shoulder and they walk by also. A heavy hammer will be there lying down, and they never know, and then they carry by the cart also, and they try to pull it like this also, for that matter, to deplug it from the source. Keep the cords away from the heat and oil and the sharp edges, because the insulation gets weakened. That need not be, and disconnect when not in use. People, even at home, we have to practice. Even the microwaves or dishwashers or whatever it is, try to isolate it when not in use. You could see in some of the houses, even this charity begins at home, not even in industries for that matter. The washing machine is getting plugged and the source will be kept on only, for that sake. So try to disconnect when not in use, and at least you isolate it, so that to see that the circuit is not continuous, for that sake. Don't use the wet and clamped environments. Keep the working areas well lit. That's simple and the basic, and use double insulated tools. Remove the damaged tools from use. Even it is, you see that some puncturing is there from the insulation, whatever it is, immediately remove it and then see that. Follow a lockout tagout procedures. That's what is most important. And I think Gopalakrishna did mention about it. And then employer requirements. This we will spend a minute on this. You ensure that overhead power line safety, they need have to do it. You have to isolate the electrical parts, which I was mentioning you. Encourage the use of GFCI, which we saw it in the last slide. And I did mention it to you, AEGP is nothing but assured equipment grounding conducting parameters, that conductor parameters that you try to make it, especially when you carry a box, like in the sense many of the organizations have got an extension box they will be having. In that such situations, the grounding is always a questionable. Their AE-GCP are the ones which are much helpful. It's a portable device too also that will keep you safe for that sake. And then ensure the power tools are maintained in a safe condition, and ensure proper guarding is available, and provide training, enforce LOTO, ensure the proper use of the flexible cards, that's very important, and ensure proper identification of our devices. That's what it is. Okay, our sources for that sake. Going on to the next one, in the hotel fire safety, why I was making as a hotel fire safety, I've got only 3 to 4 slides, but it'll take about 3-4 minutes, gentlemen, because we leave out of the hotels. When we get out of our house, we stay somewhere, and it is always whether we stay with our family or during our vacations, or we just move on our professional trips, we stay in a hotel. So I wanted to give a little bit of a stress on a hotel fire safety than generically talking about the fire safety part of it. So it will be helpful for you. So when you check in the room, what you have to do, that's what is essential. Locate the nearest fire exit. It is always given when you close the hotel door, you could find that you are here, the room is here, and this is what the fire exit. Don't be ignorant. When you walk in, just see the fire exits. Where is the fire exit? When you are checking inside the room, when you're walking inside the corridor, you check where the fire exit points are, however late you may be. If you are checking at 11 o'clock in the night or 12 midnight also, please look for, we are getting into the room where the fire exits are. And when you close the room, a good hotel certainly will have the fire escape routes. Examine the staircase. If they say this is what the exit is, you just take a few steps, open the door, and then see how the staircase is also. Count the doors. A very important, gentlemen. When you walk inside the room, when you just take in inside the room, from the exit to you, how many doors are there? Like how many rooms you are crossing? So that you may ask, what is this funny? What is that? It will fetch you. When you're walking, when a fire sets in, the entire corridor will become so much fumes will be logged, like it will be so much fume you cannot see. But when you crawl and then find, oh, the first room I have crossed, the second room I have crossed, the third room you have crossed, and the fourth room is the exit, which you know for that matter, and you can pull out the lever and then move about. That's very important to find how many doors you are crossing before you enter into the room from the fire exit, and remember how many were there. Study your windows, see how they can, if you can open or not. We never do that. If it is an AC room, whether you can open it or not. I'll tell in another slide why is it so important. Keep your key and the flashlight. Good hotels give a good flashlight also to you, so that keep it near your pillow, so that in the event of a fire, and if the fume condenser, the fume surrounds you, you can always find a methodology to exit. Locate the nearest alarm, locate the nearest fire extinguisher, and read the hotel fire instructions, which I told you, and know the room numbers of other members. You are going with a family or going with a party of people, so that you can alarm them, give them an alarm. If there's a fire inside your room, what's that you have to do? Use the fire alarm if there is one nearby, or call the hotel reception immediately and then say, hey, the fire is there. Remain calm, don't get panicked, because the panicking only causes you more hazards. Leave immediately if the fire is in your room, and close the room behind you. Immediately getting out, close the room, and alert the other members that I have already mentioned you. Crawl, inside the room you can crawl. Why? Because from the room, in the room for that matter, you would see the door, there'll be 1 inch or 1.5 inch gap will be there. There'll be a fresh air will be coming. You know how the potential difference exists when there's a fume engulfed in one room, and the other side of it is it's okay for that matter. There's a potential difference of between the air, and it'll try to suck in for that sake. So that will give you a lifeline for that matter. So you try to crawl and then find and then go about. So that, and then you can open the room, and before opening the room, you just put your hands across and then see the other side is the temperature of the room is very high for that matter. The temperature of the door is high. Don't get out. That means the other side is also a little bit, it's not very unsafe it is. So you should be very clear that temperature you should find to know. Feel the door with the back of your hand before leaving your room, so that if it is hot that side, the door is hot, don't open it. Be ready to slam the door in the case of a fire, heavy fire, which is existing. If you cannot leave the room for that matter, if you leave the room, the previous slide you saw, and now I'm just saying, if you cannot leave the room, fill the bathtub with water. The bathtub and the sink, whatever the one with water, the cold water, because the fume which engulfs that can get reduced. Seal your room by the wet towels, because the other side is there. The fumes may come in through that door opening, which I was mentioning it you down between the ground and the door. So try to seal that room with a wet towels. You will be having towels in your room. Wet it, put it across down below so that the fume doesn't engulf your room. Turn off your air conditioner, because air conditioners are the ones which sucks the outside air also and bring that fumes back inside your room. Open the window if there is no smoke outside. Don't break the window. Please do not break the window out of emotions. Don't do that unless necessary, as you may feel, right? Because you may have to close it also depending on the situation, how it arises. Throw water onto the door and other walls also, so that make it cool, so that the fire never comes into your room side. If the smoke enters your room, you put a wet cloth in your mouth. You wet the maybe the knitted cloths if you have. Wet it, put it onto your mouth, so that put it onto your nose, so that you will not get into a nauseating, or you will not find suffocated also, for that matter. Then wave a wet towel in the room to clear any smoke. You can keep waving the wet towel in the smoke, so that you can minimize the fumes which are there. The smoke, you can minimize it. I mean, fumes, I used a wrong word. I mean to say smoke. It is the right word, which I should have used. I'm sorry for that. And then signal for help. If the telephone works, call them. Don't jump out of the room. You would have seen a classic example which happened. I don't want to mention the name of that building, which is there in the public domain. How many people jumped out and they lost their life also, for that matter. So in the old Madras Road, you could have seen, you would have heard this more than 12 years back since, but the memory remains very strong in our mind. The people jumping out of the panic, they could have got saved also, for that matter, but panickingly jumping out and then losing the your life is not a wise methodology. And as a last resort, you can always take all your sheets, bed sheets, whatever the rope, make it as a rope, and then put your mattress down below, and then try to get out of it. If you cannot, this is what is the one. This is what in simple I've got to say, gentlemen, nothing else. Given the time, I just wanted to give a justification to the topic which I wanted to take up. And any questions there, please do ask. I'm there to clarify. Over to you, Murali.
Thank you, Venkat. Very nicely explained. I should say special thanks to you, because the time that you had to make those slides and then present today, very limited. I'm sorry for that, but you did a great job. I can tell you that. Members, you have anybody having any questions? So if there are no other questions, vote of thanks. So on behalf
to do the vote of thanks.
On behalf of BCIC, Bangalore Chamber of Industry and Commerce, and Bidadi Industries Association, I express my profound thanks to Mr. Gopalakrishna, Senior Manager, HSC Volvo CE India Private Limited, and Mr. Venkatakuppuswamy, Director, Key Accounts of Lloyd's Registers. So I hope the members enjoyed today's presentation from learned experts, and I look forward to your continued patronage and participation in the future engagements of BCIC and GAA. Thank you very much, and have a nice weekend. And please stay safe and healthy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a nice evening.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very
Bye.
much.
Bye.
Yeah, thank you. And speakers, you will get a memento delivered at your office or house. Maybe sometime next week. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.